All right, so we got the legendary and illustrative Morge here for today's collab. He's here to just, shoot the shit about One Piece. And to start things off, Morge, I gotta ask, do you like the series?
Do I like the series?
Yeah, do you like One Piece?
Do I like this? How do I describe love? Love is it goes deep, Siv. Like, it goes deep. It's one of those things where it's like, I love One Piece so much. It's been a part of my life for so long, right? Like, it's been a part of my life since literally... I got into it in 3rd grade, but then obviously I couldn't really find it online afterwards because I was like a kid. So really, it's been a consistent part of my life since 6th grade onwards. 6th grade onwards, it's like weekly reading, weekly watching, not watching, but it's just been such an important part of me growing up. Honestly, probably my value system to some degree, as crazy as that sounds.
It's not crazy.
And I've just been so into it for so long that at this point, like, when you love something very deeply, right? Like, you can go through stints where maybe you're not like liking it week to week or like moment to moment as much. You got your ups and your downs, but overall, like, One Piece is something that's like it's almost tied to me in my sense, like the very core of my being. It's something like, if I were to list like 10 things that are most influential or impactful to me in the world, or like 10 things that I think about the most, or make up who I am the most, or something like that, like One Piece would literally be part of that. So it's very hard to explain how much the series means to me. But again, when I like or dislike parts of it, that'll ebb and flow in moments. At this moment in time, I'm liking One Piece. I'm excited about Elbaf, that's for sure.
It's like a dog, you just got a dog for like, 15, 16 years, and it's been with you, bro.
Yeah, well, I think I'd always like the dog. I guess this might be more like
a lover. A first love.
Yeah, maybe if you were married for like 50 years, and you're gonna go through some periods where you're like, you don't like that person.
Yeah, like menopause hits or something,
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah. There's gonna be some moments. Yeah. So it's not always gonna be like a walk in the park, but like, overall the love is still deep, right? Or like family. You love your family. Maybe you go through some periods where you don't like, but
it happens.
You get
what
I'm saying?
Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah.
So we're in Elbaf currently. I think it's a great arc so far. I got a comment in my last video, and it really put some things into perspective. They said, hey, we're 5 chapters into Elbaf, and I'm already tired of the Loki talk. And I'm like, damn.
Whoa.
That's crazy. It's fair enough. I mean, I kind of get it, right? Everybody's kind of just spamming Loki. But he is the main topic, I do want to, like, gauge where you're at with him. What do you think about Loki so far? What are his abilities? And then we can move on to the next subject. But how do you feel about this guy?
I mean, just based on what you just said, I understand it, because, like, I mean, we're both content creators, so it's tricky, because, like, Elbaf, the way it started was a few chapters of not really anything. Like, it was them in that little city, right, the Lego city.
Yeah.
Running away from a giant that's not very strong, Roto. So there's not a lot to work with in terms of community discussion. That tends to also reflect in, video topics that you or I could cover, right? There's just not a lot to discuss. So then Loki is the first real spark of excitement that we get in the arc, right? And I fully enjoyed those early chapters of just the East Blue Five interacting and having fun. But it's not, it doesn't feed into community discussion as much, other than we're finding it fun, right? So when Loki's like, when we finally get one thing that's something that you can latch onto, that's, quote unquote hype, or something that you can theorize around or speculate on the future of Elbaf around, or be curious about, then oversaturation can happen very quickly, as you know, because it's just, that's the thing to talk about. So I remember, like, I dropped a video as soon as Loki came out about a theory as to what I believe Loki's fruit is, and I can obviously share that here in a second. And that video was very popular, and people were like itching for Loki content. And then the next week, I dropped another video talking about characters that Loki might fight. And that video did very poorly, because already in the span of those 2 weeks, it didn't help Oda took like a break, like a 2-week break or whatever. Everybody had been talking about Loki. Everybody had been talking Loki to death. So like once that happens, then there's not as much of an itch to keep talking about this same thing. But that's all that we really have right now in the arc. So it's not like Loki's suddenly become boring. I think his latest interaction with Luffy was very interesting. It's more so just like a consequence of like being part of a community where everyone's looking for something to talk about, and it all gravitates towards the one thing that exists right now. So I can quickly share what I think
Oh
Loki's
yeah,
fruit is.
I would love it.
And if you've got theories, I'd be happy to hear that as well. Yeah, I mean, so the theory that I put out, and I still think that this is a solid theory. It just depends on if how far ahead Oda was planning. The god that is talked about the most among the giants is not actually the sun god. It was god Elbaf. So if you go back to Little Garden and read through Dorian Brogy's dialogue throughout that arc, they talk about a god very, very frequently in that arc. They talk about their god Elbaf. They're saying we have this god named God Elbaf. He bestows divine judgment on the righteous. He's a warrior god. Like that's who he determines who wins, who loses. They're like when they are struggling with Mr. 3 and stuff, they're like asking like God Elbaf, why are you making this? Why are you having this befall us or whatever? Like, why are you not letting us die properly in battle? Things like that. So they reference a god a lot back then. And God Elbaf is actually like the second most talked about god in One Piece outside of Nika. It's just that it was only really talked about by the Giants of Elbaf. I figure that based on Vegapunk's explanation of how devil fruits come to be, which is characters, or not characters, individuals, races, people, etc., believing in a god enough that it comes to exist. If that's how it worked for the Nika fruit, then I figure that if all of the Giants of Elbaf, like the most important part of their culture is this warrior god of Elbaf, then wouldn't there be a fruit that exists that is based around that warrior god, you know? Because a lot of people talk about stuff like Surtur or Fenrir and things like that, and those aren't things that they haven't really been established to exist in the One Piece world, right? So I'm a little bit more iffy on those actually being the answer. I'm kind of just looking at what has been mentioned. I'm like, the Giants of Elbaf, they mentioned God Elbaf a lot. Maybe that's the fucking warrior god fruit that Loki ate, and that would fit in my mind with a couple things, which is the simple fact that it's a fruit that is very important to the nation of Elbaf and is passed down generation through generation by the royal family. I figured the fruit of Elbaf, the god Elbaf fruit, being passed down through the royal family of Elbaf, that does make sense to me. Fruits also tend to match the user quite a bit. Like Oda tends to craft a personality to fit the fruit, or like some theme of the character to match the fruit quite a bit. So Loki, he seems like a warrior through and through. He's like a very proud warrior. He seems very violent. He says that he's going to destroy the world, things like that. He seems like a very strong warrior. So him having a warrior god fruit, that seems fitting to me. And I think just finally some pieces might connect. Like we see that gigantic sword that's buried in the Elbaf Atom Tree or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe that there's a fruit, like the warrior god Elbaf fruit or something that once eaten allows you to grow to gigantic sizes and wield swords of that size or something. So a bit of a monologue there, but I do feel like those things, if I've got to take a guess, I would go with that basically. I don't really know what else I've got.
And the thing with the god Elbaf fruit, right, that you're mentioning here, I think one of the benefits of it is that it's completely unique to One Piece, right? It's not Surtur, it's not Fenrir, it's not something that's based in our, in our realm. And I feel like that gives Oda the liberty to mix a bunch of these other ideas. Like, who's to say it's not Surtur, right? Like, maybe it is God of Elbaf, but it also has Surtur properties mixed in there, Fenrir properties, or any other fruits that people are imagining. I think that could work really well. And I wonder if Oda, I'm sure you've seen it, but like for the longest time, we never had the spelling of Elbaf entirely, right? People thought it was Elbaf with an F, and like, oh, spelled backwards, it's Fable. I feel like Oda might know that was a idea back in the day, and I wonder if he's going to play off of that. Like maybe the god of Elbaf is even named Fable, or just something silly, right? Just to pay an homage to it.
No, I mean, that would be interesting. I don't know enough about honestly, I don't know enough about the Japanese to English spellings and stuff like that to understand why. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't actually get why
they went with the PH or F.
How did the translation work? Like, why did we have Elbaf, Elbaf for so many years, and then we find out that it's spelled Elbaph? Is that because this is just the first time Oda wrote it in English or something like that? I actually don't. I don't know what that process is. Like, how was it decided that this is now Elbaf PH instead of? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Do you think he put a lot of thought into it?
I don't know.
Like he sat down in a room for like a couple of weeks, like like Tom Brady before like a Super Bowl, just like studying it. Like, okay, PH or F, what do I do here? Kissing his son on the lips. It's like, what the hell?
I don't know. Part of me is just like, did the translators all just get it wrong or something? I don't know what their process is for figuring out that it's supposed to be called this instead of that.
Yeah.
I will say this though, like the fable thing, I do think that sometimes like we as like the community or whatever try and make things fit a little bit extra just because we view Oda in a very high light, right? So like for us, like anything that's kind of cool that seems like it fits, like like Usopp, Aesop, those things are supposed to go together. Maybe they are. I just don't know if that's actually Oda's intention. Maybe it is, like, you know, like Usopp, Aesop's fables or whatever. I don't know if that's actually was Oda's intention from the beginning. And then when people kind of made the Usopp, Aesop connection, then I think the Elbaf and Fable reverse spelling just naturally spawned off from that. And it's like, oh, Goda foreshadowing, like, the arc that's about to be about Usopp is like Fable backwards. You see what I'm saying? Like
it's like when you see like a face in the dark and you start piecing together like, holy crap, like did I see something over there? Like you start like it's human nature. And do you know what else is human nature? Owning a great pair of earbuds. Yes, that's right. This episode of Collab Piece is brought to you by our longtime sponsor, Raycon. At home, at the gym, out for a walk, at work, you name it. Having a pair of earbuds will always improve your situation. I know you're probably thinking that new earbuds are probably going to be expensive, hundreds of dollars, right? Sometimes, yeah. But what if I told you that you could grab yourself or a loved one high-quality Bluetooth earbuds for less than half the price than the other stuff on the market? All thanks to Raycon. Raycon has actually sold 3 million of their previous version of their earbuds, so you know it's a winner, but if you've been waiting, now is the time to get on board, because they've recently redesigned and upgraded their everyday earbuds model. They pair nice and easy, and still have the dependable 32-hour battery life with their efficient charging carrying case, but now they have really nice active noise cancellation, which is massive. It really makes a difference with earbuds. There's multi-point connectivity if you want to share what you're listening to with other people, quick charge functionality, and also a quality fit that you can customize as well so that they don't fall out of your ear and they deliver a great feel. They also came out with these cool everyday protective carrying cases so you can express yourself a little bit along with the cool colors they have. I've been using these bad boys for over a year now and they've been a lifesaver alongside my work life. So what are you waiting for? You can grab them at just half the price of their competition. That in and of itself makes them well worth it. But if you click the link in the description down below or go to buyraycon.com/SYVN, you can get 20% off of your Raycon purchase. The holiday season is right around the corner. If you're looking for a gift to give somebody, there's no better gift than the gift of great earbuds, aka Raycons. So again, click the link in the description down below or go to buyraycon.com/SYVN to get 20% off of your purchase. Thank you, Raycon, for sponsoring today's video. I gotta say now, like, as far as One Piece goes, like, what are you looking forward to the most moving forward in the story? Like, it doesn't have to be anything big. It could be like a personal taste. Like, are you a big, like, I don't know, Mr. 3 fan? Do you hope he genocides the giants? Like, where are you? Like, what do you want to see personally? What would make you smile?
What would make me smile in Elbaf?
Anywhere.
I'll just say one last thing real quick on the Elbaf spelling. I don't know if this has been a problem for you though, by the way, which is that as a content creator, like as a YouTuber, as a content creator, I don't know what to label my videos now because I don't know if the people will latch onto like it depends on what the people latch on to. You know what I mean? Like, what do viewers gotta think of it as? Like, I had the same issue with like Holy Knights versus God's Knights. I'm like, am I labeling this around Holy, like this video, like a theory about the Holy Knights or the God's Knights? Because Viz says this, but I see more comments about this shit. Same thing with Elbaf. Like, I'm just like, what's gonna make my video like
pop off?
Like, what are the tags that I should be putting on my video?
I put both tags, to be honest, man. Like, I kind of go back and forth.
Do you know what you put in the titles right now?
I think I do the F, or the PH, because it's like the official one, but I will admit that is a struggle, just like determining what to do. I think with Saturn's title as well, like Warrior God, I think they also did Godhead with Viz, and I'm like, okay, let's be real. Like, one of them sounds way better than the other, right? Godhead sounds a little bit silly. Like that sounds like you found a nice prostitute on the side of the street, bro. Right? Like, Warrior God's much better.
Like, God. All right, you put all sorts of images in my head now about like why Emu picked. Like, I need 5 godheads. They all serve me.
Like, it's your turn, Saturn. Your turn to go to Emu's flower room.
Yeah. Garling is getting promoted to Godhead.
What did he do for that title, though?
God is I. Okay, I don't know where we started. Anyway, PHH, whatever. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I've heard, though, by the way, that the Viz translator sometimes will deliberately make the translations a little bit different than what he sees, like the illegal scanlators do just to make it different. I'm like, come on, man, you don't have to do
like
that.
the Mother Frame. Like Mother Frame was a running thing for a while, and say, bro, that doesn't make any sense.
Dude, what was it, like the Animal Kingdom part, or like the circus pirates or some shit? Like there was some shit that he ran with that it's just like, why?
And then they stick with it for the longest time, like Zoro versus Zolo. Like they kept that until Fishman Island. Doesn't make any sense. Control F and just replace all. It's easy.
Dude, yeah. You can just use
easy.
it as an excuse to reprint the volumes or something like that. It like shows a lack of like them being in touch with the fan base. You know what I mean? Because like if they're in touch at all, they know that no One Piece fan in the world calls Zoro Zolo. So they're just sticking to something just for the principle of sticking to it. It doesn't really make any sense to me.
It's like they want to flex that authority. You know, like I have the official badge. Like I make the rules here, and then there's like 10 people right beside them. It's like, okay. Good one.
Yeah.
So what would make you smile? No, you're good. You're good. Okay. Like we're all about going off topic. Smile? Yeah. What would make you the happiest?
Honestly, at this point, it's usually because if I'm being straight up, then like the thing that would make me smile the most right now would be like in general really powerful storytelling for the Straw Hats. That would make me the happiest with, let's say, the Elbaf arc in particular. But that's a little vague because I don't know what that means. Like, I could say like, hey, I want something really good for, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, definitely Usopp this arc, but I don't actually know what that's supposed to be, and I have no expectations for it. I'm just hoping that Oda does something really good with the Straw Hats this arc and kind of gets back to what I felt was the strongest in terms of storytelling, like stuff like, Water 7, Enislabi, Alabasta, storylines that were more focused on the Straw Hats, and your cat's cute. Cat's
appreciate it. Yeah, 1 of 5. He's the fattest one. He's like 16 pounds.
Okay.
He's a little bit overweight. Yeah, he just got uneaten.
5 cats.
Yeah, dude, it happened. I think I had 3 cats, and then my wife has 2, and then when we got together, it's all of a sudden we have 5.
Yeah, it just merged.
It happens, dude.
Yeah, just storytelling for the Straw Hats would make me smile. But if you're asking more so like what's like something simple that could happen like in the next couple chapters that would make me smile, definitely. There's so many characters that I'm just excited anytime they show up in a chapter. So honestly, Oda's got so many pieces he can play with right now to just make things exciting. If Cross Guild showed up next chapter, I'd be excited about that. If Dragon showed up next chapter and did something, that would make me excited.
I like how you added that stipulation in there. Like, he has to do something, man. Dude, wait, are you also a Dragon hater?
I'm not a Dragon hate. No, so here's the thing. I will always defend. I'm good with the Dragon Ginny situation because I think that people put a lot of assumptions on who Dragon is supposed to be, the type of character he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they just project like, well, Luffy would do this, so why isn't Dragon doing it? And it's like, okay, well, but Luffy also does like a lot of shit that's like not that like Dragon also goes around trying to make it his life work to like liberate towns and stuff, whereas Luffy doesn't give a fuck, but no one criticizes Luffy for that or praises Dragon for this. Like, there's just differences in values potentially and differences in how Dragon runs the Revolutionary Army. I don't think we know yet enough about Dragon as a character. I think if we were to get a Dragon backstory and it turns out that he's extremely similar to like a Luffy or a Whitebeard or a Shanks and like cares so much about like his subordinates like Ginny or something like that, and he was really torn up about the Ginny situation, but then for some reason didn't go try to save her or whatever, that would be bizarre. But at the moment, I'm just taking it as like, we don't know this character. Like, this character does not have to operate with the same moral system as a Luffy, as a Whitebeard, as a Shanks. He could be a very different character. The Revolutionary Army is not necessarily as buddy-buddy as pirate crews or something. This seems like it could be more so an organization where people are willing to die for a cause and they sign up to die for a cause. Like, I just view it in a very different light because I'm just like, just because there's other good guy characters that would act in this way, we don't know we just don't know enough about Dragon or the Revolutionary Army. So that's how I'm viewing it. I am so I defend Dragon in that sense, in the sense of like, he's not supposed to just be a Luffy 2.0, I assume. So I defend him in that sense. I don't hold the Ginny stuff against him. I think people don't give props to the fact that like, out of all these strong characters, like a Whitebeard, a Shanks, a Luffy, Dragon's the only one that's actively trying to change the world for the better and trying to help fight against the world government, whereas nobody else really seems to give a shit, and they're okay with just helping out their friends here and there. I'm like, you could argue morally that Luffy, Whitebeard, and Shanks are way worse than Dragon, and just because Dragon didn't save one person but is working to try to save the world, versus these guys who would do the opposite, that doesn't make them better than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it depends on it depends on the perspective that I think people don't give credit for what Dragon's actually trying to do. At the same time, just because I defend Dragon in that
Bubble.
sense, in that bubble, there's a different part of why I dislike Dragon, which is that Dragon just seems fucking incompetent, and not incompetent, but like, I just don't know what the fuck the dude's been doing, why he's so fucking passive, why every time we see him he's fucking sweating and confused and like just uncertain about things. So like, for me at this point, it's more so like I defend why the
genie
moral
situation
stances around Dragon.
Yeah.
But I don't view him as a hype character anymore anytime he's on screen, because it's always like, Dragon scenes are all like him reading the news and being really shocked and confused by the news, or him getting some news and being like, oh, there's ancient weapons are real, holy shit. Or like he's always like, he's the dude that's supposed to be at the helm of the revolution of the world, and he always seems like 5 steps behind where everybody else and like the reader already knows or something. So
they should have made him seem like, you know, omnipotent. Like he reads the news about like the ancient weapons, like, I knew that, like, Vegapunk, you finally revealed. Like, they could have made him look a little bit better, but the fact that he's always like, you know, mouth wide open, just super shocked, looking like a god you know, a god head, like, my god, like, what are they doing to Dragon here? And I understand it, right? Like, the way I see Dragon is that I compare him to a Kainu. Like, in a way, imagine a Kainu, but without Marineford and without, like, the Kuzan situation. Like, what would he have? Like, he's just a guy behind a desk. And that's kind of how Dragon feels. Like, we know that Dragon's going to be this big, bad character. He's, like, impactful. He's probably going to be super strong as well. And really meaningful. But at the same time, like, he hasn't really made much impact himself. Like, his army has, but he hasn't. I would have loved if, like, you know, throughout the world of One Piece, people mentioned Dragon. Like, oh, Dragon did this or Dragon did that. But we haven't had that. And I think that's one of the problems for Dragon as well. Like, he doesn't even have, like, imaginary feats.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like, hey, maybe Loki was defeated by Dragon, the way people are talking about Shanks or something. It's like, no, there's just no... there's no real evidence of impact. It's just, we're banking on Oda. He's Luffy's dad. He's a very important figure for the plot. We're banking on the fact that Oda's been saving him for a long time for a reason. But he's just this black box that almost, it's like, he could, like, not exist in the story of One Piece, and, like,
it'd be fine.
You wouldn't really be able to tell the difference based on how characters talk, like, arc to arc, you know? And it's funny because, if you go back in time, like, the aura, the omnipotent sort of aura that you were talking about around Dragon, that once existed pre-time skip. Like, pre-time skip, when Dragon would show up, it would be like, holy shit, like, we just got a panel or a chapter of Dragon or something just talking to Ivankov or something like that. It would be exciting. It seemed like the dude had all of his shit together and was just operating on a plane that's, like, beyond, you know, like, he's got plans that go beyond what all these other characters have. Now it does not feel that way, and so just whatever the fuck Oda did not do him any favors.
I've been reading One Piece ever since Water 7 Longring Longland Weekly, which I'm kind of like you were. Man. Like, I picked it up and then I stopped, and then I picked it up,
further back,
Yeah, I mean, there were certain arcs where I just kind of skipped in general because One Piece wasn't that entertaining back in the day. You know,
not regularly.
Yeah,
dude, I took a long break during Thriller Bark. Like, I just took a hard break during Thriller Bark.
Oh, I was locked in during Thriller Bark, man. I loved it.
Really?
Yeah, as a kid, I was like, dude, Thriller Bark's awesome. But I mean, of course, like, it was competing with like Naruto and then Bleach, so it's like, maybe I just skip One Piece this week and I'll just come back. But yeah, like, I get what you're saying. Like, Dragon back in the day had so much, like, aura to him. Like, every time he was on screen, he stole it. And then like you said, Ivanka was like, oh, like, Conqueror's Haki? Oh, like, of course, this is Dragon's son. And then Akainu's like, oh, it's Dragon's son. We got to kill him. And it's like the world's worst criminal. And then when we got the Garp thing where he, like, name-dropped Dragon, it's like, holy dude, they're connected? And then nowadays, it's like, you know, Dragon's here and he's still doing the same thing he was back in, like, 2010. You know, he's still just looking east, being shocked, and that's it. You know, we need something a little bit more. Which, speaking of which, do you think the Holy Knights, do you think they're going to be a strong organization? Where do you place them in the world? And also, who do you think is going to take them down? Because I have a fear that I've brought up at least twice a month. If you watch this channel, you know what I'm talking about. But one of my biggest fears in One Piece is that the Holy Knights are going to be taken down by the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. I wake up in cold sweats just thinking about that. I know the Straw Hat Grand Fleet's going to be impactful.
Oh my god.
But I'm just scared of, like, you know, Bartolomeo, Haruden, you know, we got like Ideo coming in, like killing the Holy Knights. I'm like, my God, like, yeah, that sounds cool on paper, but like we got like you said, we have so many characters in One Piece that could use these scenes, like Cross-Guild, Katakuri. We could have Wano, Yamato. Like, there's so many people who could deal with these guys who are top tier. And if the Straw Hat Grand Fleet took care of them, I think I would be a little bit disappointed. How do you feel about these guys?
Yeah, I never even thought about the Straw Hat Grand Fleet possibility. That gave me a fear. That gave me a
Are you
new
scared
fear
of that
unlocked,
too?
basically. I'm just like, oh my God, if I gotta watch Leo
1v1.
like, yeah, it's complicated because I do want like Oda's assembled a huge roster of like fun characters, and I do want everybody to get fights and stuff like that at the end of the day, even down to, you know, Straw Hat Grand Fleet members, but not the good ones. Save the good ones for the characters that we like, you know? Or like, there's levels to which characters we all like, right? So for me with the Holy Knights, I think right now, in terms of how strong I think they're going to be, I kind of got the sense, like if you count up the number of Holy Knights in the silhouette, you've probably seen there's like 9 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
It feels comparable to, I feel like it might be something like similar in strength to a Yonko crew. Not like a full-ass Yonko, like, how do I say? Like the core members of a Yonko crew. You know what I mean? Like Yonko officers.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Shanks' senior officers.
If you're to say like Kaido plus Calamities and Toby Roppo, or like Shanks and his core squad, or like Blackbeard and all of his captains or something like that, or like the Straw Hats. You know, like I feel like it seems set up to be a similar sort of strength. Part of the reason I say that is because the previous leader of the Holy Knights was Figarland Garling, and I feel like Prime Garling was probably maybe Yonko level, maybe something supposed to be like that. I don't know. Yonko level is broad to a lot of people. It means different things, but just based on how he's portrayed at God Valley, based on very likely being Shanks's whatever, I feel like, yeah, that would kind of make sense. That Prime Garling was maybe like he's around the strength of a Yonko or something, and then you've got some like a slew of about like 8-9 characters that would be in totality comparable to a Yonko crew or something, and that's like the Celestial Dragons version of a Yonko crew, Gorosei and Imu aside. So that's kind of what I'm imagining for them right now, just because the number seems so similar. Like you could throw them against like the Revolutionary Army, and like you could get like a good number of matchups. You could throw them against like the Straw Hats, and you get a good number of matchups. You could throw them against the Red-Haired Pirates, and you get a good number of matchups. It just feels like the numbers kind of add up. And I feel also as though the silhouette that we've been getting a little bit of a glimpse of, like that dude with a sword during Vegapunk's speech that we haven't seen, I feel like that's the new leader of the Holy Knights now that Garling was promoted. I think we also kind of saw a silhouette when Dragon was talking about the Holy Knights. I just think it kind of clicks together. So
I'm on the same boat.
I do have high hopes for the Holy Knights. I think matchup-wise, they could be anyone's guess, though. I kind of like to think that we might get against the Revolutionaries or the Red-Haired Pirates or something like that.
Yeah, I'm on the boat that it's the Red-Haired Pirates. And first off, I gotta praise you for a second. It's interesting watching you talk. I've never talked to you one-on-one. I can tell that you really put a lot of thought behind your words. It's really interesting.
Oh, thank you, man. Holy shit, that's very nice.
I noticed. I'm like watching you. I'm like, okay, like you're looking off to the side. Like you're really like taking a couple of seconds to think about this. Like the way you word things is very intentional.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I feel like a lot of the things that you've said already are like really good ideas as well. And so I'm sorry that we haven't gotten a chance to collab
no, you're
yet,
good,
but
dude.
like, you're obviously very well spoken, articulate yourself.
Oh, not at all. I kind of just shoot from the hip.
Thoughts. Okay, all right, sounds good. I was trying to be nice, but
I appreciate it. So, I like what you said about the Holy Knights. I'm on the same boat. Like they do feel like world government version of a pirate crew in a way. Like just the way they're structured, set up. And I do want them to be this Yonko crew-esque powerhouse as well. Like, I feel like we're at that point in the story where if they're anything less, if they're Straw Hat Grand Fleet victims, it would just be disappointing. Like, right now, the world government doesn't have a lot going for them, right? We saw what the Gorosei were capable of. Of course, Garling is a unknown factor. People are already putting him above all the other ones because they were just so disappointed of the Gorosei egghead showing, and I think that's totally fine. But if the Holy Knights are also like that, if they're also disappointing in their portrayals or reveals, then I think that will bring down the world government for a lot of people. And these are, guys who have kept the world government in power for over 900 years. Like, they gotta be at least somewhat formidable. Like, yeah, I know they rely on the Marines and the Navy, but if they ever detract, if they ever leave their side, then they're done. And I think that shouldn't be the case.
I definitely agree. I just feel like right now the world government's got a lot. Like, I think one of the things people don't talk about enough is like it's not just the Gorosei Gorosei stocks were kind of like first they were non-existent, right? Because we just thought the Gorosei were old dudes. Some people thought they were strong, but nobody knew how strong. So at first, like, they were the stocks didn't exist, and then suddenly it's revealed during Sabo's scene that the Gorosei have abilities and stuff, and they're strong. So then their stocks start to go up. And then I think their stocks were the highest when like Saturn first arrived at the island and he had that cool transformation and stuff, and before Kuma's backstory started rolling and everything. That's when everyone was like, holy shit, like the Gorosei are the real deal. And then we got that huge spread when all of them showed up at the same time, and it was just like, these might be like 5 admiral level characters or something like that. Then the rest of the arc, the Gorosei stocks slowly dipped and dipped and dipped, and people felt disappointed by the end. But the thing that people don't talk about is like, I think Loki, the character that took the biggest hit, was Emu himself by the end of the arc. Because Emu had that moment where Joy Boy's hockey freaked him the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
You remember that? Like, Joy Boy's hockey goes off and Emu's just like screaming in terror, like he's keeled over and everything. That is... I feel like you should always hype the villain up first before then... Like, you should establish how strong the villain is first and like really build up their strength and like create a sort of intimidation factor around them first before then having moments like that detract from them or like make them look like a little, like make them look vulnerable or something like that. I think it's just weird with Emu. We still haven't seen anything that he can do. We know that he has his own transformation, but he has no feats or anything. And then the first time that we see him encountering like someone like Joy Boy's hockey, he's just reacting with so much terror. I feel like that hurt Emu's stocks for me quite a bit, because I think before that, a lot of people felt like, okay, Emu's undisputably got to be the strongest character alive right now. Now I've started seeing more conversations about like maybe Emu's not all that or something like that. So I know that's a bit of a tangent, but that's just to say that like overall, Gorosei stocks went down. I feel like Emu's stocks for some people went down a bit. And so you're looking around the world government landscape, the Marines might, who knows if they're going to be on their side or anything by the end of the story, once the Celestial Dragons are trying to drown everything. A lot is riding on these God's Knights, like you said, to really reinforce that the Celestial Dragons do have the strongest force on the ocean. Even the Seraphim, they're not mature yet, and they might get stolen by the Blackbeard pirates with the whole, Saturn, Katarina Devon situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah. God's Knights are important. They can't be fodder.
Please. And for Emu, like I see what you mean. Like people see Emu dropping to their knees and screaming for Bloody Mary, and that could bring down Emu for a lot of people. But for me, I can kind of see it like, imagine you're a woman for a minute, right? And you got like this husband, he drinks at 3 a.m. He comes home, he beats you the hell up. It's like, have you watched Dawn to Dawn?
No. I've watched the first episode.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything then. I'll go to a different analogy, but you have this abusive husband. He beats you every single day for years on end, 100 years plus, dude. You just can't die. And one day he passes away, and then 800 years later, you're immortal. You realize that he came back to life. He climbed out of that tombstone like Michael Jackson in Thriller, and he's back with a vengeance. You don't even see him. He's not in the room, but you smell that alcohol breath, and you're like, holy crap, he's coming. You know what I mean? Like, who wouldn't shout in terror?
I definitely agree with you, like, logically. Like, I get why Emu had that reaction, and that doesn't mean that Emu's not going to be that strong. I'm just saying more so from a feelings thing. Like, I haven't seen Emu do anything just yet, so the first time I'm seeing Emu encounter, like, Emu's all tough when he's, like,
in his flower room.
It's him and the boys in front of Sabo and, like, it's just Sabo and like fucking geriatric old man in a wheelchair. I'm like, yeah, he seems tough here, but then like the first time that he's encountering like any sort of
pushback,
real strength, right, that we've seen, he's reacting like that. I know that doesn't disqualify himself from being very strong, because it is Joy Boy that we're talking about, likely very possibly the strongest character to ever exist in One Piece, right? So I'm not saying, I know logically Emu could still be number one in the world right now. I still believe he's the final boss of One Piece. It's just a feeling thing of like, for me, I would have liked to see, like, if you hype, it's kind of like, remember with Kaido? Like, Kaido really dropped in, we know he fucked up Kid and Killer and everything, and like, right off the bat in his introduction. We saw him like one-shot Luffy and everything like that. We saw a lot of hype stuff from Kaido before we got that flashback where we saw Odin get the better of him. So Kaido was already kind of like cemented as that dude before then we see him a little bit vulnerable. I think I would have, just from a emotional feelings thing towards this villain, I think I would have enjoyed more so just seeing like Emu being really scary, intimidating, doing some stuff first and like establishing how powerful he is before then seeing Joy Boy affect him that badly. I think for me that would have like that would have even made Joy Boy's hockey moment even more impressive than it already was, because it's like, now I really understand how bad of a dude Emu is, and then for Joy Boy to affect him that way, it just carries a bit more weight. But like at the end of the day, Oda doesn't want to reveal Emu yet. I'm sure that Oda's going to have Emu do some crazy, impressive shit once he is revealed, so it might just not have been the time. It's maybe just the way
it's kind of like Dragon, right? Like how Dragon's always shocked at the news. It's like, damn, dude, he could have had a better reaction, man. Should have held it in.
Wait, can I ask this real quick?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Like, Emu and Dragon are just parallels of each other right now. Anyway, can I ask this real quick? What would satisfy you with what Dragon could initially do that would make you feel like he's got his aura back? Like, what's something that you could realistically imagine him doing in the story that would bring back that old school feeling for him?
See, that's hard, because at this point in the story, we're in the end game. We know all the players essentially, except for the ones who are still silhouetted. And the hard part is that when you talk about characters going up in stock, like people talk about Mihawk, for example, like, oh, like what does Mihawk have to do to cement himself as the world's strongest swordsman right now, minus the title and minus the Shanks thing? Like, you have to think of it in terms of sacrifice. Like, yes, if you want to bring Mihawk up, you have to sacrifice another swordsman like Fujitora. That's why people bring him up. But like, would you want to sacrifice Fujitora for Mihawk? I think I would. But for Dragon, like, who would you sacrifice for Dragon? And who would be top of the verse, or at least, in the top 10 to make him seem really cool? And I think that's kind of where I struggle. I would love it if Dragon takes down like a God Knight, or takes down a Gorosei member. But again, we lose one of those important battles that could have been saved for somebody else. And plus, if we're trying to say that this makes Dragon look good, then that also means that he stomps them. So that's kind of where I struggle. Like, we'd have to introduce like imaginary threats at this point. Like, oh, have you read JJK or no? Yeah, like it's how they're like, oh, Sukuna, by the way, he took down like multiple clans back in the day, the Holy Lords, he did all of this.
5 generals.
And you never see them. And it's like, okay, like we have to give Dragon something like that. But even then, like, will people take it seriously, I guess, is the real question. To bring Dragon's aura back, I would love it if we just don't see him for like the next year or two. And then he comes back and he's like, yeah, by the way, I got like an ancient, like, something crazy or something that we haven't seen before. Like, he's got to have some sort of ace up his sleeve that makes it all feel worth it. It's hard.
Oda should be able to, because like he's done such a great job with like Blackbeard, who's supposed to be like this tactician, and like Blackbeard executes plans and has like a lot of things secretly in the palm of his hand very frequently. So like Dragon is just, there's not been anything that's like, oh, it feels like a brilliantly executed plan. And I like that you frame things in terms of like, who do you sacrifice? Because you're right, we're at an endgame stage where like we've got a lot of characters right now that we need them to get some satisfying moments before their time in the story comes to a close, right? Like, Mihawk's a great example. Nobody wants to see Mihawk just lose to Zoro, and then that's all we really get from Mihawk. We need something. So, like, if you're thinking about characters to sacrifice, like, off the top of my head, I'm like, Green Bull has a sword. I wouldn't be surprised if
he starts using it for once.
Yeah, but I'm just like, man, then this Admiral just got introduced just to die to Mihawk after, like, shitting his pants against Shanks or whatever, so it's just like, it would be satisfying, kind of, but like,
his biggest feat is beating Weevil off screen. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, Weevil off screen, and then not beating the Scabbards or something like that. With Shanks, I've hoped, like, I think we're both on the train of like red-haired pirates versus God's Knights would be good. Partly because I do believe in the. I'm a Shanks twin believer.
Me too, dude. It's
there, man. The sword,
I didn't say that initially. No, you
can
say it, man. Speak your thoughts.
Path we're going here.
God.
No, I think it's the same dude. I just think it's the same dude. I think that guy is going to be set up to be a good Shanks win before the end of the story. Because like at this point, Shanks versus like an Admiral, we already saw Shanks scare Green Bull. Like, we don't need to see Shanks fight an Admiral. We need something a bit juicier. So I think this God's Knight stuff, like red-haired pirates, God's Knights, I think that could be a good matchup. Hopefully Shanks defeating another, Figarland or whatever in the process. And Dragon, he's just got the Gorosei. So maybe a Warcury or something like that. I hope not Akainu. Because I just think Akainu, there's better stuff between Luffy and Akainu, and I know some people say Sabo versus Akainu.
I don't like Sabo versus Akainu, no.
Yeah, I'm not a believer.
Yeah, I mean, with the... the reason why I like Shanks versus the Holy Knights as well is because people believe that Blackbeard's going to kill Shanks. Are you on that boat?
Yes, I am.
Me too.
But I do think Shanks needs some really meaty stuff before then to really, get the money's worth out of the character.
I think what would be really nice is if Shanks beats the Holy Knights and God Knights, and his crew and him, they're all at like, 20, 30% HP, and that's when Blackbeard swoops in, because he always swoops in at the very end. I would love it if Shanks has a high diff, extreme diff battle against the Holy Knights, and then Blackbeard, who of course would show up in the Holy Land as well to, reap the rewards. I would love it if he came in at that point and then he beat Shanks. And it would just show that, Blackbeard's always underhanded. He's always waiting for his opportunity, kind of like Marineford, where he waited for Whitebeard to be almost dead, and then he came in. I could see him doing the exact same thing for Shanks and his crew.
Oh, that would be a great scenario. Because, you're right. And Blackbeard, he only picks fights that he's fairly certain he's going to win. Like, he's a gambler, but he gambles after, counting the cards. You know what I mean? He...
like all of us.
Yeah.
Ban him, casinos! Get him out of here!
Like the Whitebeard scenario, he was fine fighting Ace because he knew that he's gonna win that fight, and he's got his whole squad with him. He's fine ambushing Law because it's an ambush. He knows he's gonna get Law, right? He stopped going after Hancock once Rayleigh showed up, even though it would probably be Blackbeard would have beaten Rayleigh according to Rayleigh himself, but it stopped being so guaranteed, and so Blackbeard backed off, right? He just doesn't like doing fights that feel kind of like there's a shot the other guy could win. So that scenario of Shanks getting his win and his crew getting his win, and Blackbeard being the opportunist, that makes a lot of sense. The only thing in my head is just Blackbeard still has to seem really strong by the end of the story, So because he's going to be one of Luffy's final matchups. You can debate to death whether it's the last one or the second to last one or whatever. So it's just Blackbeard also, it feels like he needs a legit win at some point. It's hard to say who that comes against. It could come against Luffy, a legit win against Luffy straight up before getting a rematch or something. I mean, that's a possibility as well.
I feel like that's how it typically goes for Luffy, right? He'll find an opponent, then he loses, then he gets back up, then he fights again, loses, gets back up. It's a rinse and repeat cycle that I think we all kind of like or have been indoctrinated into, right? Ever since Thriller Bark and Enies Lobby.
Yeah, I also think that Oda doesn't really like to make Shanks look bad, so it's hard for me to imagine Oda writing Blackbeard and his crew just beating Shanks and his crew straight up full HP head to head. Can you imagine Shiryu defeating Ben Beckman?
No,
I literally cannot imagine it at this moment in time.
Blackbeard's crew, I love them to death. I think they're the most piratey group out there in the world of One Piece. But at the same time, I might sound like an elitist, but they just don't impress me that much. I love that. I love their growth. I love their trajectory, but they're not there yet. I look at Shiryu and it's okay, he got one good stab in on Garp, but he also had to turn invisible and attack Kobe. And also, we've seen the invisibility fruit before. It's not that crazy unless he awakens it or something.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about these guys.
The invisibility fruit is just baffling to me. Because, I've complained on stream, I'm did Shiryu request this fruit specifically?
It sounded like he did. I mean, they killed Absalom for that fruit, and he was like, "Hey, I want that one, dude." It's what do you mean you want that one?
Dude, I'd be do you want to hold out for something slightly better? We're gonna get more fruits. Dude. You don't have to be so thirsty for a fruit. He's no, I need the first one I can get my hands on. What the? What?
I mean, I could see it going a couple of different ways, kind of like Bleach and Tosin. I think that was a great utilization of what invisibility could be, where everything becomes invisible and you can't use your senses. I think that's awesome. But at the same time, it's that's not what the fruit is supposed to do, out of the box. That's an awakening or something beyond that. So it's just plain invisibility is crazy.
I have thought that Shiryu could be a good matchup for Zoro just because Zoro, the area that he's probably the weakest in, is probably observation hockey. I think Zoro fans would get very upset, but out of everything he's good at, that's probably the area
that an objective fact, right?
Yeah, right. He just we've never seen him do that much with it, right? So Shiryu could be that opponent that's maybe the final step. It's just the order of things is so tricky to figure out. The final step before fighting Mihawk or something, because it forces Zoro to get better at observation hockey. If Shiryu's awakening does something like you mentioned, a Tosin-esque ability of taking away, or you can't sense them at all or something like that, and so Zoro needs to go hard on observation to be able to unlock something there to actually hit Shiryu. I think that could be a good final way for Zoro to level up as a swordsman, because he's got the power down mostly. He can, obviously get better advanced Conqueror's Haki and stuff, but I don't know. That I see it as a potentially cool matchup, but I still don't it's a niche matchup. It's it's not like the Blackbeard Pirates themselves are overall that intimidating. Because if you took Aokiji out of that equation, I think they just lose to Garp. I think Garp just solos the whole fucking island and then walks out with
everybody. I mean, that's essentially how it goes, right? Or just Garp without Kobe there as well. Because Kobe was a liability. If Kobe just, didn't fall for that, I mean, it would have been fine. Yeah. Which also is kind of crazy that he fell for it, considering the fact that he got the announcement that like all the hostages are on the ship. We did it, guys. We're good. And then he sees like a lady right around the corner. Like it's almost comedic timing. It's like, okay, all right, I get it. He's a good guy, but damn, he fell for it, dude. And she looks like a pirate too.
Yeah, like it's just like no, this seems like a hostage. Gotta save her.
Yeah, I gotta go for it, man. So I gotta ask now, what's your favorite anime? What do you personally like? Like, outside of One Piece, like, anything you're watching currently or a show you just keep on going back to? Because I'm a little bit autistic, and let me tell you, I rewatch shows like 1,000 times, bro. Like, it's crazy.
Dude, rewatching shows is fun, because, like, it's comfort, you know. It's
you know what to expect.
And, like, yeah, you feel good. And plus, I find I can multitask more if I'm, like, rewatching, because then you got that going in the background. Maybe I'm doing something on my computer at the same time, or, like, playing a game or something.
Yeah. What do you afterwards? What game do you play? Like what do you typically go to? I would love to know just more about you in general.
I'm not a huge gamer.
Okay.
I'm not a huge gamer, but I've gotten into games a little bit more as of late. Main reason I'm not a huge gamer: one, I didn't have games growing up because my parents just wouldn't buy me that. They gave me a Nintendo GameCube in like 3rd grade, or 4th grade. They gave me a Nintendo GameCube, and then I didn't get another game console for like a decade. So that's basically
they starved your ass, dude. You're like Yamato in the cave.
No, dude.
My
and
God.
in their mind, they were like, "Nah, we got the kid a game console, so like, you know,
he'll be set for the rest of his life."
They did not understand the concept of like, you know, PlayStation, Xbox, like there being different branches, or there being like different generations of these consoles and stuff. They're just like, "What do you need that shit for? Like, just play your GameCube." I'm like, "I'm 16. I can't be playing a GameCube at this point." Anyway, I didn't have games growing up, so that was the main thing. More recently in life, I started picking up From Software games just because.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. It's it's like going to 0 to 100 for. It's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, those are good games.
Yeah, I mean, I love those games a lot. Like, it made me realize what I was missing out on for decades. But bigger thing I realized is that I have a tendency to be obsessive and like just. If I have like a distraction or something like that like I end up pouring, like I will just automatically end up pouring a lot of time into that.
Yeah.
And I will do the classic thing of like, let me take a quick break and just play a game for like a little bit. And then I'll be playing like Bloodborne for the rest of the day or something like that. And so the day's just gone. So for my own sake, I have not started Elden Ring yet. I played Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne. For my own sake, I've stayed away from Elden Ring. I will play it at some point when I feel like I have a better time management skills, I think. I've considered picking up Black Myth Wukong soon. I'm just going to wait till the DLC comes out because I like having everything in the game already complete.
Yeah.
Like already there before jumping into it. So I'll probably play that when it comes out. That seems like a more pick up and play, so it's not going to be as time consuming. Like I can play it a little bit, put it down, I think. I don't know why I'm going on this long tangent, but basically, I am not a gamer because one, I grew up without it, and two, now as an adult, I will just it becomes too much of a time sink, and just to avoid my own worst tendencies, I try not to. Like, I know I'm at my worst when I'm playing a game. Like, literally, I'm at my least productive when I have a game that I really like. The more I like it, the less productive I'll be in life, and then the worse things will get. So, that's basically it. In terms of other anime and manga, I mean, your question was mostly anime, but, like, I definitely read manga more than anime. I just finished a series called Fire Punch, which is by the Chainsaw Man author. I don't know if you've read Fire Punch, but I really fucking love that. Chainsaw Man and Hunter x Hunter are the two ongoing series that I'm enjoying the most right now. Anime, the most recent anime I watched was Frieren. I didn't finish that out, but I was enjoying that. My favorite anime of all time is probably the Hunter x Hunter anime, or Steins Gate. I think those are probably my top two.
Oh, those are good choices. For me, I'm a big Frieren fan. I'm actually rewatching it for the second time around, but in the English dub. I'll usually check out an anime and subbed, Japanese, and then I'll go back and rewatch it in English because I really enjoy it. And of course, it's kind of like what you said earlier, where it's like you put it in the background, you just kind of hear the noise.
Yeah.
So that's what I do
you can
enjoy.
Only do that with dub.
Yeah. So Frieren, I just watched that. Speaking of the Chainsaw Man author, I just rewatched Look Back as well, which is a really good movie.
I've read Look Back, but I've not watched it yet.
The anime does it justice. It's great. Definitely recommend. Just a nice 50-minute movie in a way.
Do you feel like have you watched it dub or sub?
I watched it subbed.
Okay, because if there's a dub version, I'm trying to get my girlfriend to try more anime.
Yeah.
So but you know, like some of the more action shonen-y stuff is not exactly she enjoyed Free Rein, for example, when I had that on. So I thought like Look Back would be a really good little. We missed it in theaters, but I thought that might be a good thing to watch. And if there's a dub version of it, I could definitely get it.
Oh, there is a dub version.
Sure that would be perfect. Okay.
Me and my wife are gonna watch the dub version again, actually. So funny you say that. But yeah, like I definitely like Look Back. As far as ongoing mangas, I really only keep up with One Piece. I feel like for One Piece we put so much time into it that it's hard to find time for other series, is what I've realized.
Yeah.
At least other mangas.
That is true. Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a lot I want to get into though.
I think for a long time I wasn't reading other manga. Like I go through like cycles, but I think that like really once I became really into One Piece as a content creator, like last few years, I really stopped having an urge to read other manga as much, which sucks because there's a lot of really other good series out there. But I think like Chainsaw Man I kept up with just because I already liked it before I became like full-time YouTube in One Piece.
Yeah.
Hunter x Hunter, same thing. But like Fire Punch was really the first new manga that I tried reading lately, and like it pushed me back into the realm of like, okay, now I'm itching to read other manga again, you know?
Yeah.
Because almost like I felt oversaturated with just talking about One Piece all the time. Now I feel more the itch of like, okay, I want to find new series again. I want to just experience different stories again, etc. Like One Piece still exists, and I'm always gonna be talking about that and loving that first and foremost. But yeah, now I feel like that passion again to try different series. So if you got something to recommend, I'm like all ears right now. I was thinking Dandadan or Sakamoto Days next.
I'd say Dandadan for sure. I'd pick that up. I've only watched the anime. I haven't read the manga yet. But as far as like manga goes, my tastes are so obscure that I can't wholeheartedly recommend you anything I like. Like I just read Starvation Apocalypse, which is about these guys being like nobody's ever read it before. It's like a bunch of people who get kidnapped in Japan and they get put in this cellar with a bunch of other people. And the whole gimmick is that these guys are being fed through test tubes and they're getting fattened up so that aliens can eat them. It's like absolutely
Wait, dude, I
insane.
like that a lot. That sounds really fucking interesting to me. What's that called?
Starvation Apocalypse, I believe.
Starvation Apocalypse. Because when I was when I was younger, like I'd say high school, that was when I really started getting into manga. And that, like, I really like those sort of scenarios where it's like sort of survival scenario type manga, like, you know, like a battle royale or like literally the manga battle royale or like stories like that.
Yeah.
Or Cage of Eden and stuff like that. So I think I would enjoy that.
Oh, sorry. It's called Starving Anonymous is what it's called. I just
Starving Anonymous, because I looked that up and I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So, right.
If you like death games, I mean, that is my actual favorite genre.
Yeah.
Kami-sama no Itori is a really good one. It's called Do As God Says. It's completely finished. There's 2 parts to it. And it was actually in Shonen Jump for a while. And it's made by the creator of Blue Lock. So really popular author. This was the manga beforehand.
Okay, interesting.
And
completed is always preferred.
Oh, yeah.
Completed is great.
There's like 20 chapters of the original manga, and then he got licensed by Shonen Jump, and then he went on and did 180 chapters, and it's all finished. It's about like a bunch of high schoolers from around the world, every single country. They all get put into these death games, and essentially, if you win, you're great, but if you lose, you die. And essentially, they try to narrow it down to like the final 5, and then they choose who becomes God, and then whoever becomes God can do whatever they want. It's a really fun thing. There's a lot of puzzles there, a lot of wordplay, and I think it's really great. I think the art style, like if you like Blue Lock, which is very high quality, you'll like that one as well. So I always recommend that.
I've never tried Blue Lock, but that's like the type of genre you just referenced. That's what I really enjoyed back in the day, and I'd love to be able to pick up more series like that again, because I don't know, it's just fun. It's like the psychology and like the suspense and thriller and like characters doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
I think there's another manga called Denjin N. It's essentially Death Note, but written by a different person. It's about this guy who just I think he like idolizes this girl online, and he's like, oh, I love her, but he's like this loser. So one day he dies and he becomes electricity.
What?
Which sounds
That's
super...
not like Death Note.
No. Hear me out. There's an L-type character who tries to find out how everything is happening. Like the guy's going around and he kind of works like a Death Note where if he sees somebody talk mess about his idol, he'll actually kill them in convoluted ways. Like, oh, like their smartphone electrocuted them, or oh, a conductor fell on them, or a train hit them. And it's like, how did they die? And it's because this guy's electricity. He can kind of control the flow of everything. And then you have this L-type character saying, hey, like, what the hell's happened? Like, I don't know. It's finished. Only 40 chapters. It's very short, but another manga I'd recommend if you like the genre.
I'm probably going to try all of these. Like one of my favorite manga that's Well, it's not obscure. No, it's definitely not
Go for
obscure.
it.
But like Gantz is one of my favorite manga of all time, and like that used to scratch an itch that like I still haven't found another manga that really does. It's not even like Gantz was. Yeah, like I've Gantz. I don't know if you can see, but I've Gantz volumes back there.
Dude, Gantz is great. It got me into like people like girls in like leather suits.
Gantz has got
You know what I
Gantz
mean?
does specialize in that stuff.
Yeah,
Hold on.
dude.
Like yeah, like I've got some volumes and stuff back here.
Hell
That's just
yeah.
being blocked by the mic. But yeah, no, Gantz knows how to design women. That's for sure. He knows
Oh,
how to design
100%.
women, and he knew what he was doing with the leather suit designs. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like his own personal fetish coming out. Which hey, we all like it. We all like it.
The spreads that he did were just so blatantly horny. It's actually hilarious. Like just before like chapter covers and things like that. It's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think that's good though, right? You got to have an artist that goons out to their own series, like One Piece, for example.
Yeah.
Like, man, you know Oda,
Dude.
you know Oda loves designing some of these characters, man.
Oda loves it, and the funniest thing is that he actually matured as he like in the last couple years, because like he turned into an ass man literally as of Egghead Island. That wasn't his thing before, but
a boom
Egghead
guy.
Island onwards, now he's just realized that there's a whole lower half to these women, and he's just like, what the fuck? Like he's just unlocked like
One day he'll
just
learn to
hit
have a
puberty or
heart and
something like
brain
that.
too, but for now, we're moving on to the ass. That's so funny, dude. Speaking of which, bringing it back to One Piece for like the last couple of minutes here,
Yeah.
as far as
We did bring it back to One Piece. But
yeah, we did it in a graceful manner as well. How do you
graceful
feel
manner.
about Loki's weapon of choice? Because we actually get a glimpse of it in this latest chapter. He has a hammer.
Oh, is it a hammer?
Yeah,
I did not
dude.
realize.
It's
hammer?
Let me see.
Oh,
It's
fuck.
after the special bounty. After he says that he can unleash his strength. After the treasure tree Adam. Yeah. You see like a panned out shot of him, and it's a hammer. At first, I thought it was an axe to like mirror Luffy, but it's a hammer, dude. It's like a big ass hammer. It's thick.
Hold on. One sec.
Oh, no,
you
you're
said
all
it's
good,
after
dude.
the special bounty?
Um,
Okay.
a page after the special bounty. Yeah. Where he says, "You're a pirate, right? I want you to undo my chains by dawn. In return, I'll wipe out any pirate crew you want." It's that little dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can actually see it, and it's kind of weird. Because
Oh, interesting. You're right. It's
Yeah.
definitely a hammer. That is very clearly a hammer. Or it's a really shitty axe, but it's
Yeah.
definitely a hammer.
a lot of people talk about Mjolnir,
Okay.
and it's like, okay, that's interesting,
Yeah.
right? And then we got a hammer here, and it's like, yo, like, I liked the
wonder-
Usopp versus Loki idea until we met Loki, but now I'm like, okay, it's kind of bringing me back a little bit, but I just don't know how Usopp's gonna do it. I think that's the main thing.
Dude, like, because Usopp does often fight like outside of his weight class, right? But that usually
Yeah.
means like he's able to defeat a character that's like one of the weaker opponents of the enemy team. Like beating Loki, that's someone that I don't even know if like Zoro or Sanji could defeat. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it would have to be a
if
gimmick
Usopp
battle.
beat Loki, it would likely be a bigger feat than anything Zoro or Sanji have done, and that's Oda doesn't really do that. But this is probably his storyline, so if it were to happen, it would happen here.
It would
Kind of
have to be
insane.
something like Perona, where like negativity wins, or maybe it's his cowardly
Yeah.
mindset that wins. Like it's got to be something that only Usopp can do, which
Yeah.
I think would be really interesting because everyone is pretty prideful, right? Everybody's really positive. We're on Elbaf, the drums of liberation and Sun God Nika. Like it's a prevalent thing, but Usopp has constantly been negative. So I wonder if that will work in his benefit somehow in this battle. Which I don't know how it would, but it's just like what I want to toss out there.
Loki has an issue. What's his? He said something about his eyes, right? What's going on with his eyes?
He hasn't said anything about his eyes.
Hasn't said anything about
No.
his eyes. Okay, so then we don't know. I'm just trying to think, like maybe Loki's blind and Usopp from sniping or something. I don't know, some stupid stuff. That's not a real theory. All right.
Quote him on that one, yeah. Clip
Don't
it.
quote me on that. More, do you think Loki is blind and that's why Usopp beat him?
How did Loki dodge Luffy? Well, let me tell you, he just
Oh shit! Oh my god! I fucking forgot about that. All right,
he
nix
smelled
theory,
the
nix
air and
theory. It doesn't
he
exist.
knew something was happening.
That's
funny.
Okay, but the one thing with the hammer is that like the Loki that we've gotten so far is not, from my understanding, he's not like traditional Norse mythology type Loki, and that guy, from what I understand, is very, very much just a cunning trickster more than anything. Whereas this Loki seems like he does have a lot of very hardcore Elbaf values. Like he's a strong warrior. He's very prideful, very aggressive. He talks about going out and crushing characters and stuff like that. Like, it sounds like he is like a very traditionally like in that
man.
warrior mold, while also being seemingly a cunning, manipulative character, right? So I wonder if the concept, because he has the hammer, right? Oda doesn't just usually copy straight up from like mythology and references. It's usually an inspiration. So I just wonder if like maybe he thought up of this giant that's supposed to be a sort of mesh between like a Thor and a Loki from mythology, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a very strong, very powerful giant warrior, but also very cunning and manipulative in a sense. And so he merged those two concepts together, and therefore we get the One Piece version of like this fusion, which is this character named Loki, who's very manipulative, etc., but very strong and prideful warrior like Thor, and has a giant hammer. I don't know. That's what I've got right now.
I like that. I think that would make a lot of sense. Just mismatching like every single thing we have into Loki. I think that fits. Yeah,
man.
With that being said, though, man, thank you so much for taking the time and being here. I really freaking appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts you would end off on, or?
No, I had a great time. This was a fun conversation, man. Sorry we haven't gotten a chance to do a collab
Oh no, dude, we're good.
before, but this went. Yeah, I felt like this went really well. And yeah, you opened up my mind to some new ideas, so I do appreciate that for sure. Yeah, I'm sure we'll find a time to do this again sometime 100%. In the future, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, loved having you on here. You're always welcome back, and you guys know where to find Morsh. He will be linked down below as per usual, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace out.
Thank you.